What's going on, my friends? Welcome back to the Comeback Journey podcast. Here with me today is Devesh. He is the host of the Progressholic Podcast. We met on Instagram a little while ago, and I think it's really cool what he's doing and the message that he's sending with his podcast. I'm really excited to have him on here.
Hey, Nick, thanks a lot for having me on here. It's a pleasure and incredible to see the work that you're doing with the Comeback Journey as well. So really happy to be here.
Yeah, man. It's cool to connect with people that are doing similar things to what you're doing, and you can kind of learn more about the craft,
100%. And I mean, like the way we connected as well, just a random message on Instagram. I guess that's the power of social media, you could say.
Yeah, man. I think it's really cool that like we have the ability to really connect with anyone, anywhere in the world with in real time, Yeah. It's something that I think we take for granted a lot because we're so used to it. I grew up, I think my older brother and I shared a cell phone when I was like 12, 13 years old. And I think when I got into high school, I got like my own cell phone. And then, in those days, social media was MySpace, and like Facebook was like just coming up.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to see how it's evolved into what it is now.
Yeah. Like I remember I interviewed someone from Idaho on my podcast. I never thought in a million years I would be anyone from Idaho until the day I die, But I mean, you live and learn. So that's the power of social media, really.
Yeah, man. It's I had a couple. I interviewed one guy from India and another one, a friend of mine in Sweden.
Wow.
And it's just so crazy that you can like talk face to face with somebody that's thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
And very minimal issues with, internet connection in that sense. It's, for the most part, it's pretty smooth. Like over this platform on Zoom, seems to be very little issues with making sure things run smoothly.
I mean, like, and the way like you can build a connection with someone, and then, when you get the chance to meet in person, you get a chance to meet in person. Like I know if you ever come up to Canada, I'll be more than happy to show you around. And if I ever come down to Cali, I'll definitely hit you up. That's just the way it is. Although we've never really met each other, but we're still like, getting to know each other. That's beautiful.
Yeah, man. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. So let's dive in a little bit to like where you grew up in your childhood. So you're currently in Canada.
Yeah.
Did you grow up there?
No. So actually I was born and brought up in Dubai. My family is originally from India. So my dad migrated out of India when he was like 19 years old. He traveled the world for like 7 to 8 years. Decided to settle down in Dubai. Met my mom. Got married. Then I came in a couple of years into their marriage. So born in Dubai, lived there for 18 years of my life, and so I basically did my whole like school over there, so like middle school, high school, everything over there. And then after high school, was looking, because like the universities in Dubai aren't the best. People tend to leave Dubai for university. So then there were a couple of options for me. It was either the States, Canada, or the UK. Those are normally the main options out there for at least students from Dubai. And then Canada turned out to be the next best option. Decided to go there, and it's been 3 years now, and it's been an incredible 3 years, honestly. So studying here, and then at the same time started Progressholic and all that kind of stuff. But currently in Canada, but yeah, most of my childhood was Dubai, and Canada and Dubai are very, very different cultures, and then India is a very different culture. So it was that like three-pronged approach to who I am today. You could say that like it merged together to like develop who I am today, you could say.
Have you visited India?
Yeah. So I visited like almost recently a lot more, once in a year, but there was a period when I was doing maybe once in 2 years, because at least where my family's in Dubai, India and Dubai are pretty close. So it's a little more easier it's like about a 3-hour journey compared to Canada and India, which is like a 16-hour journey. But So I tend to visit like once in a year and a half, 2 years, because I've got a lot of family there and all that. And it's a beautiful place. It's a huge country. There's a lot to see. Um, so yeah, I mean, I tend to go there a decent amount, you could say.
Okay, cool. Do you have any siblings that you grew up with?
Yeah, so I have a younger sister. She's 5 years younger, and she's currently in high school. And yeah, I mean, she's also back in Dubai with my family. Um, but yeah, no, we have a pretty cool relationship. I think growing up, we weren't as close as we are right now because it's still a 5 year gap. So when I'm 15 and she's 10, we don't have a lot to talk about. But then sort of by the time I was 18, 19, and she was around 13, 14, there were a couple of interests that were a little bit aligning a little bit more, like movies, TV shows, all that kind of stuff. So we had a lot more to talk about. So I think like our relationship has definitely like improved over the years, you could say.
Yeah, I'm in a somewhat similar situation. So I'm the middle child. I have an older brother who's 2 years older than me, and I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger. And, you know, up until I would say like the last few years, like my little brother and I, like, we didn't have a good relationship, and the age gap, we saw the world differently,
Yeah.
and like right now I'm 28, he's 22. So we're in that age where like we can connect on more things, but as you said, like growing up and, when I'm 15 years old and he's 9, there's not a whole lot of, similar interests and ways to connect. So it's cool that like now that we're older, like yesterday, we went out, I just bought a drone recently, and yesterday he and I went down to the beach and like flew the drone around and hung out for a few hours, and it was really nice. But it wasn't always like that.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, just a personal example, just on that point. So I'm sure you've heard of TikTok,
Mhm.
and there's a lot more Gen Z that get on it. So pretty young, age range. And my she's currently 16, and I'm 21. So she's a lot more, you could say, TikTok savvy than I am. So she's used TikTok a lot more. And I wanted to get the business on TikTok, the Progressholic on TikTok. And I remember she sort of become like you could say she started to become like my TikTok marketing consultant. Like I go to her for like advice almost every single day. I'm like, what do you think about this? Like, is this good? Is this good? Should I post this? So it's like a 21-year-old asking a 16-year-old for like business advice on like what to post about their account on TikTok. So that's been a very interesting experience as well, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, um, you live and learn, I guess, and our relationship has gotten a lot more closer, definitely over the years.
Yeah, and that's a cool way to connect over something that like you're really passionate about, and something that she's probably passionate about. Like TikTok is huge now, and it's cool that you guys are able to connect with that. Is she
Definitely.
your
I mean, it's
only
quite.
sibling?
Sorry.
Is she your only sibling?
Yeah, she's my only sibling, so 5 years younger. So yeah, it's only the two of us basically.
Okay. So when you were growing up in Dubai, like how is that culture different than Canada? I've never been to either place, so I don't really know
Yeah.
the similarities or differences.
Yeah. So the thing about Dubai is the one good thing about Dubai was, although like, it's in the Middle East, it's like super multicultural. So a lot of different people from a lot of different nationalities. Like I remember in my high school when I was in grade 9, in a 25-person class, we had I think 13 or 14 different nationalities.
Oh,
So yeah, it's like from Dubai, like people that are like sort of like the local Dubai people, like it's only like 10% of the population. So the rest 9% are expats, immigrants from different places around the world. You get that multicultural experience. So, for example, for me, when I came to Canada, when it came to sort of the North American culture, it wasn't as much of a culture shock because, I mean, we watch the same movies, the same TV shows, uh, similar slang. It wasn't like you know a lot of different things. Dubai sort of has a very international outlook on things. There were, of course, some differences. Like the weather was a very big difference. Canada, as we all know, is pretty cold, extremely cold, actually. Um, and Dubai on the opposite end is something completely different. So, for example, At least like in Celsius, because I'm not too sure about Fahrenheit, but like in Celsius, um, Dubai would hit like 50 degrees Celsius during the summers, which I don't know how much it is in Fahrenheit, but it's really hot.
Really hot. Yeah, I think it's in the hundreds.
Exactly. Yeah. And Canada has a low of like minus 30 degrees Celsius during the winters, you know? So you're literally seeing like two opposite ends of the spectrum, you know? So that was a very interesting experience. I mean, I tried my best to make the best of everything. Um, but that was really interesting to see the weather dynamic. And also there were like smaller things. Um, I think in Dubai the mindset's a little different. I don't want to generalize. I think everyone has a different way of looking at life. But in Dubai, there's a lot more focus on how do I say it? Maybe the amount of like your socioeconomic status.
Mm.
So it was like your socioeconomic status sometimes defined your friend circle, the school you went to, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure it's there in North America as well, in Canada, but I found it a little less. Like the mindset of people was a little less money driven here than it was back home. So that was interesting to see. Of course, as again mentioned, you find good people, bad people everywhere you go. But that was an interesting sort of shift that I saw. But yeah, honestly, like I think although I love Dubai as a place, I prefer my life in Canada. I'm not gonna lie. Other than family back home, who I love dearly, there's a lot of different aspects of Canada that I definitely, I'd say, prefer over Dubai. But yeah, that's sort of like I'd say the differences between the two.
Okay. So growing up in Dubai and going to school out there, you said it was like very multicultural, very diverse in the classrooms. Was there any sort of um, like, did you struggle at all, like growing up in that school? Like, was there anything that was difficult for you in regard, like not like schoolwork, but as far as like interacting with the kids or like, trying to fit in with all these different groups of people?
Yeah. So personally, like the multicultural side aspect aside, I personally went through my own struggles, high school, middle school, elementary school, like back from just when I started off school, generally from a young age. So I went to a couple of different high schools. I went to three different schools in the end, and to after severe, if not like pride. So up to the point like where my hands would literally shake, like if I'm talking to you right now, like I wouldn't be able to get on a call with you, like it just wouldn't be possible. I had two best friends until maybe like grade seven, grade eight, and it wasn't like I had a bad life. Like my family was quite supportive. I had these really two close friends, but I never really ventured out because I was very, very socially anxious, um, and that kind of hindered me a lot. And it sort of got worse and worse and worse up to the point where I was like, this is not the way to live. Like, um, I'm not like I like my hands are literally shaking whenever I speak to someone. Um, I hate this feeling of like this is anxiety, like this feeling of anxiety that like sort of has riddled me from the inside whenever I speak to someone new. So I was like something has to change. And at that point, I was also extremely obese. So that was another aspect. So on the physical aspect, on the mental aspect, on the emotional aspect, on all different aspects, um, it wasn't like I wasn't exactly in the best spot. Um, and then I asked myself, I was like, if I'm 16 right now, if I'm gonna live like this until I'm 60 or 80 or whatever, no real. I'm basically living a life like I'm just living a pretty shitty life. Although like I had a great family, everything like that. It's just that I wasn't taking charge of the opportunities that I had in my life. So then I asked myself, let's take a small step. You know, let's try to talk to one new person every single day, and that can be a very very small conversation. So that can be a conversation like in high school, since passing by the hallway, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Or I'm at a grocery store and I just ask the cashier, hey, how's it going? Super small conversations, but trying to like start those conversations. Small conversations. When I started a couple of days, and of course the first 3 to 4 months were pretty bad because I didn't have the emotional intelligence or the social skills to really deal with new interactions. But it started to get better and better. And by the time I switched high school, so my last 2 years I did in a different high school, it was an incredible experience because like I was slowly opening up, and it was incredible because like my family could see it, people around me could see it, and the friends that I knew like 2 to 3 years before that didn't recognize the person that I was. Um, and from someone that like whose energy got sucked out while talking to people to someone whose energy started to come from talking to people, which is like the biggest change. And before I knew it, I was in university in Canada. Don't have any family here. When I came here, I literally knew two friends of mine that were in the whole country I knew from before that came with me. So it was a completely new experience going into university, going into a new continent that I've never been to before, that had no family over here. So I knew there weren't really that many cushions for someone. It wasn't like I could like drive 2 hours away and go visit my family if I ever fell down. So then what I tried to do was I tried to continue the 1 day, one person thing in Canada, where like in the residence that I was staying at, I would try to speak to one new person every single day. So when I was in the cafe downstairs, I would just go and sit up with like random people, and that's how I met some of my like best friends like to this date, just by like putting myself out there and meeting like random people. And I mean, like the efforts that I put in over there is the reason why I'm on with you right now. Because maybe if you reached out, I wouldn't have had the confidence to reach back out and be like, let's get this started or something.
Mhm.
Or I wouldn't even have the confidence to start Progressholic. So sometimes it's funny to see how like one decision have a not to so many different decisions.
Yeah, it's interesting that it was such a dramatic shift for you. Like how you said your energy would be drained anytime you had to engage with somebody, and now engaging with somebody feeds that energy.
Yeah.
So I know that you said that like there weren't a whole lot of options for like a university in Dubai, and so you went like pretty far away from home.
Yeah.
Do you think that like in any part internally of yourself that you were, in addition to like you wanted to go to a better school, but was it also like a kind of challenging yourself to get out of your comfort zone?
100%. I mean, sounds really cheesy, but I said the greatest things in life come outside your comfort zone. As simple as that, you know. Um, and I definitely wanted to challenge myself. I knew that my personal growth wouldn't have been as high if I was still in Dubai. So that was a big challenge. I thought, let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? I don't like it. Simple as that. And I remember for the first couple of days. So this is another thing about the mind. The mind as a whole can trick you sometimes into boxing yourself up as a certain person. So leaving high school, you know, I had a certain reputation of myself that I was associated with in high school. Um, Not trying to like toot my own horn, but like it was like, okay, you were considered as the popular kid in high school, so that's sort of how you see yourself. But then when you go to university, you're like, no one knows you here, so it's like you can't really think you're the shit when you go into a place where no one really knows you. So I remember the first couple of days, like it was the third day, and um, I called my mom up on the third day, and I was like, it was like really late at night, around 1 a.m. Canada time, which is like early morning for them. I remember I told her, I was like, I don't know if I can do it here. Like it's the third day and I don't know if I could do it. Like I'm used to my mind compartmentalizing myself as a certain individual. And this like thing where like, I'm like thrown into the deep end and like, I gotta like figure this stuff out. Like I don't know if I could do it. And then she was like, look, you have two options in front of you. She's like, you can either cry about it or you can, pull your socks up and go and try to just make friends and, have a good experience. But she's like, whatever experience you have out of these 4 years that you're there, it's on you. Like take full responsibility of it. Whether you have an incredible experience or a really bad experience, like take full responsibility of it.
Mm.
And I was like, let's take it slowly, one day at a time, meet new people every single day. And before you know it, it was like, it had been like an incredible experience, but like, I think that conversation with my mom on that third day of the first year of university, was that sort of like that push, that reminder that I needed, that like I am responsible for my own experience, so I can build my own experience the way that I wanted to.
Mm. Yeah, I think that speaks a lot to like how we perceive our environment. Like we can, like for me, for instance, like right now I live at my mom's house and I could, see it as like, I don't have any like real independence and I don't have the freedom that I had before I moved back in here, and all these negative factors that I could think about. Or I can think about it as I have like a comfortable place where my expenses are pretty low. I have the time and the space to work on the things that I want to work on. And maybe I don't have like absolute freedom, but I have enough to get me where I want to go, and it's all about how you look at it. That's really all it comes down to. Like what are we putting, like where are we putting our attention? Like, are we focusing on all the things that are negative or the things that could go wrong? Or are we focusing on what we have and how we can improve?
Yeah, definitely. And I love the way you brought that up, because that was beautiful. There are two aspects of that. That's a gratitude and perspective. So you change your perspective about anything within your in the mind, and then switch that over with gratitude. So another personal example, currently I'm stuck in Canada, and the plan was to work in Canada over the summer, but because of the job market being really bad, there's not really that many jobs left, whatever. And I was trying to make it back to Dubai, but they closed the borders down, so I couldn't make it back. And at this point, there are two ways I can look at this. One way is I'm stuck here. I miss my family. I'm all alone because my roommates have all left. All my friends have left because all my friends are Canadian, so all their houses are 2 hours away, or max to max a flight away. Like a couple of hours away. So every single one of my friends is with their family right now, except me. So that's one way to look at it. I'm all with my family. All my friends are with their families, or they're with their whatever, like their significant other, or they're with someone, and I'm the only one that's alone. So I should pity myself, um, like poor old me, poor old Devesh, like he's going through this, whatever. The second way to look at it is, hey, I'm alone, which means that I have a lot more time with my thoughts, which means I have a lot more time to reflect, improve, try new things, which I never would have gotten in a million years to try new things, because we always sort of consider ourselves to be very busy. We like keep ourselves very busy. So that's sort of how I've been looking at it in this aspect. Like these last like 30 days, 35 to 40 days, I've tried a bunch of new stuff that I never thought would be possible. Like I started yoga. Dude, I never thought yoga was for me. Like not in a million years, not in a million years. Cause I'm someone that I love lifting, and yoga was not like sort of in the radar of lifting, at least that's from what I thought. And one of my friends is a like professional yoga teacher, like a full-time yoga teacher. And he was like, just join for a Zoom class. We're having it on Zoom. Just join once. If you don't like it, you cannot come back. And it's been like, I think like 32 or 33 days. And I've been doing it almost every single day, So it's like taking up new things that, so that you never thought you would have the time to do before. I started journaling for the first time in my life continuously. Finished 33 or 34 days as well with journaling. Meditation as well. It's been 2 weeks since I started meditating. I would have probably never had the time to start these habits before quarantine, or would have made those excuses before quarantine. It's like start those habits now that you can, when you have time, and then when you go back to your normal life, it's going to be so ingrained in you that you're definitely going to make time for it. So there's always two ways to look at things. There's a way of looking at it from a victim mindset, and I'm not trying to say that what someone has been through, I'm discarding that. Everyone's been through their own struggles, but you 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 go through that struggle, you go through the emotions behind that struggle, but then once you go through those emotions, you have the opportunity to either learn from that or continue being shackled from that. That's what I feel personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's like you said, the victim mindset. Like if you're just continually feeding into your own self-pity, nothing good will come of it. You're always that's like ties back to the attention. Like all you're going to be thinking about is how you've been done wrong in every aspect of your life, or some aspects of your life. You know, it's the severity differs from person to person, but um you know, it's that like at some point you have to take ownership for your current reality. And if your current reality is not what you want it to be, you have the power to change it. You just have to be willing to, you know, kind of force yourself out of that mentality of, you know, nothing ever goes my way and why does this always happen to me and blah blah blah. All of that stuff. You know, it's first, like it's not an easy thing to do. Like it sounds simple.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I'll just focus on these other things, but it's not. It's it takes a lot of practice. Like you said, like with the new habits you've picked up with the yoga and journaling and meditation, like if you do it enough, it'll become almost like second nature, and you're going to do it regardless of what else you have going on. And it's the same concept with trying to, you know, rewire your brain to focus on these other things. Like if you can catch yourself just one time when you're like in the middle of this really negative mindset, and you can be like, oh, like, okay, now I recognize that I'm doing it while I'm doing it, and you can adjust from there. And it becomes easier the more you do it. And over time, these shifts will become monumental. You know, it's the compound effect. You know, they keep adding and adding and adding, and then, you know, it's not an overnight success, but eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah. 100%. And there's a couple of oppositions that people bring up to that. One is like, you know, you have no idea what I've been through. Like, you would never be able to understand what I've been through. And I have complete empathy for that. Complete empathy that, okay, yes, I understand that everyone goes through their own journeys. And maybe some people it's a little more painful for others. But the fact is that, okay, the pain is there, the suffering is there, the sorrow is there. Now what? Like, you have, like, it's there for everyone. Like, but now what? Like, what is the next solution? Like, what's the next option? Either we can continue being in this scenario and you can continue opposing it, or you take that mindset or you take that shift of, hey, let's try to figure out what the hell is going on and try to switch it over and move from a net negative to a net positive.
Mhm.
So I understand that there's that empathy that everyone's going through their own journeys and some people are struggling more than others, but you don't really have that many options. Like, there's two options in front of you. Either you go back or you go front.
Right.
You choose what you want. Simple as that. It's super simple that way. And another thing is, as you mentioned, people say another opposition is it's not easy. It's easier said than done. It is easier said than done. If it was easy to be done, everyone would be doing it right now, you know? But the matter of the fact is that yes, it's going to be hard. No one said it's going to be hard, but the fact is that you either have a choice of being sad or being happy. As simple as that. If it's a little more harder to move that way, go ahead. Like, I mean, I would rather, you know, take that hard route, know that in the end I'm moving towards the goals that I want, than sort of move in the opposite direction where I know that I'm falling and falling and falling and falling. So
Mhm.
that's sort of the mindset that I guess got to take.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's true. Like, you know, there are a lot of excuses that come up with, you know, you don't know what I'm going through, or you had it, your life was so much easier, you had it a lot easier. Um, but in my opinion, the people with the most significant struggles or the most significant trauma that they've been through, like those are the people that need to work through it most, because the more significant the struggle or the trauma, the more deeply it's affecting them.
Yeah.
And those, you know, these are subjective, you know, to the person, but I think the the deeper the pain, the more, like, obviously the more effort it's going to take to remedy that, but the more dramatic the change once you do work through it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Um, and the deeper the pain, at the same time, I feel like I don't want to sound like there's no emotion behind this, but the deeper the pain, the more you have the opportunity, if you get over that, is to help the people around you.
Mm.
Because you have been at your lowest and you've been at the highest, hopefully. Um, and in the end, I think personally, not even I think, I mean, it's like scientifically proven that people learn the best through stories.
Mm.
So if you put your story out there, like if you're able to get over an obstacle. So for example, what you're doing with a comeback journey,
Mm.
in the end, it is a comeback journey, but that story behind it is so important. Nick's story, like that story sometimes, and I remember you posted this on your Instagram story recently. I think it was you where you said that someone's story can be your survival guide.
Yeah, I just posted that today, actually.
Yeah,
I was
that's
I was gonna bring that up.
yeah, that just hit me. That was beautiful. That was literally beautiful. Like you have no idea what your story can do for the people around you.
Mm.
And I think if you have that story behind you, it's your duty to at least put it out there to the world. You know that even if one or two people can benefit from that, then why not? You know, like recently, one of my friends who's super introverted, and is pretty suffers from social anxiety as well. He shot me a message and he was like, because I was on a decent amount of basis and I try my best in whatever aspect of some of the stories that I've been through. And recently he mentioned to me, he's like, hey man, like, thank you so much for all the help that you've done. And I genuinely feel like the anxiety is reduced a lot and I'm a lot more social. And thank you so much for the impact you made in my life. Now, at that moment, sure, the impact has been done on only one person. It's not like I'm not like a Gary Vee or something that I'm like speaking to like millions of people, but it always starts with that one person. And, you know, it's not like I'm taking ownership for it. It's just that I was like a vessel or a messenger for him at that point, helping him out in that part of his journey. And then he'll move along and other people will help him out, you know. But it's of course really beautiful when you hear when you get good messages like that. That maybe it it encourages you to share your story even further out there. You know.
Right. Yeah. It kind of like fuels the fire even more.
Yeah.
That's okay. So this is like a cool segue to get into like how you started your podcast and the message behind it and like what your goal is with it.
Yeah. So Progressholic, we highlight stories of individuals dedicated to the progress of self and society. So let's break that down. Self and society. Self is the personal development aspect. So working on the internal. And the society aspect is working on the external. So that's not-for-profits, social enterprises, charities, all that kind of stuff. So we sort of have two sort of bubbles, you could say, as Progressholic, two wavelengths that we focus on. And the one thing for me personally as well, like when I ask myself, what's the purpose of my life or what's the goal of my life? Like it came down to one sentence where it was like to reduce as much human suffering as possible or to increase as much human happiness as possible. There's two ways to put that, while maintaining financial stability for me and my loved ones, family, etc., and constantly working on myself to improve myself within my journey. So within that aspect, I felt that progress of self and society sort of encompassed it, where it was like, yes, I'm progressing myself on the internal so that I can serve the external better in different aspects and maybe leave a small imprint on this world. I'm not someone that's big about legacy. I think you're going to be dead anyways and you're going to move on. Like legacy doesn't matter as much as the impact that you leave, and impact and legacy can be two different things at times. Because I could build a really, really big business that destroys a bunch of lives because it like pollutes a bunch of rivers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be legacy, for example. But was that a good legacy or bad legacy? So that's a different topic completely. Not to sort of dive into that, but it's that once my goal, like my life vision, you could say, was clear, it was clear that I wanted to start something that aligns with that. That's why I'm Progressholic. I try to get people that are either focused on the self aspects, so on the personal development, they've worked in themselves and they have their own stories to tell, or in the society aspect, they have starting some sort of initiative or they're doing something on that aspect where they're having some sort of impact in the communities that they operate in. And the main idea is that you, in the end, as you said, people learn from storytelling. So I learned personally the best from like hearing about your story. And the goal is that hopefully people hear more and more stories of other people that have done it before them. And then that encourages them to either work on themselves or maybe start that business that, has that X level of impact. So yeah, that's sort of why I decided to start Progressholic, and it's been an incredible journey since then.
So how long have you been doing this?
So it's been about 6 months. There's been a couple of iterations of the podcast that we've had. So this is the latest iteration. First was only focused on the self aspects, only the personal development. But then we sort of rebranded it and decided to focus on both the self and society aspect. And recently we've actually started this thing where we're bringing on initiatives specifically that are doing COVID-related relief work. So I sort of asked myself at this point, I'm like, we're doing the podcast and it's great. We're doing some great work, whatever, and we're bringing out great stories out there. But this is a very specific time in history, like these next couple of months. And what can we do as a company to help out? Then that's why I was like, let's try to get more COVID specific initiatives on. And that's what we've done. We've got on about 5 or 6 different initiatives, and we have a couple more lined up. And the main idea is to spread awareness, raise donations, volunteers. The latest episode that we had, we actually were donating $1 for each listen the podcast episode got to a Canadian charity called the Homefront, which basically helps frontline healthcare workers in Canada during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it was amazing. Like, our goal was 100 listens, and the deadline was yesterday at 11:59, and we were at 99 listens at 11:55, I remember. And then last minute we got the 100th one, and it was locked in. So it was beautiful. We raised the amount that we wanted to raise, and we just donated the money today in the morning as well. So yeah, it's just small ways that we're thinking of helping out in any aspect. So yeah, that's sort of been the journey up till this date, you could say.
That's incredible, man. That's a really cool way, like as you said, to raise awareness and to, show some insight into what the world is going through right now and what people are doing to help improve the lives of others, even though they may be struggling themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's I remember one of my mentors told me this. He's like, whenever you're going through doubts or whatever in your mind or whatever, always try to attach yourself to a higher ideal. So my ideal is to reduce as much human suffering as possible. So when I was sort of focused on that ideal, my mind shifts away from the fact that I'm alone in this apartment right now for the last month and a half. I haven't seen that many people or whatever. And I'm talking to all my friends through Zoom. I haven't even hugged anyone in the last month and a half, literally, So it's like, it's sort of like when you sort of attach yourself to a higher ideal, it tends to not negate the negative emotions, but keep those pretty low, honestly.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if I would necessarily call it a distraction, but it does help to divert those thoughts into something worthwhile rather than just, sitting and being filled with that, feel sorry for myself type of mentality. But it's cool that you're able to, and this is another huge benefit of the internet, is that you're able to do all of this while isolated.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was literally talking to my dad about it yesterday, and we were talking about the idea of that. I never thought in a million years I would be able to talk to my friends almost every single day, meet new people, start new activities like yoga or, meditation or whatever, run a business and grow the business, donate money to charity, run initiatives, whatever, do all that within the span of these 4 walls, without having to leave these 4 walls, having an impact without, because I think that sometimes what happens is we think that having an impact, you have to have some sort of physical impact. I need to physically come and help someone. I need to physically go and help and volunteer at a food bank or do something like that. And those are all extremely important. But then within COVID, that sort of taught us that you can sometimes sit in this chair with this laptop and this microphone and still impact how many ever lives possible. So that's been a very cool sort of realization, is that at times your mind throws up excuses that, hey, what can I do to help? I can't really do anything. I'm stuck in these 4 walls. What can I do to help? But there's always ways to help out, even in a very, very small way. Like there's always ways to, help out.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't, I don't think it necessarily matters like for the individual, like how extreme the impact is, as long as the intent behind it is good.
Yeah.
Like somebody might say like, oh, you donated $100 to a charity. Like, what's that going to do? Well, it's better than nothing. Like, you donate the money, you raise awareness by having it on the podcast. You're spreading this to whoever, there could be somebody that just happened upon your podcast, had never heard of it before, like saw the Instagram page or maybe saw it on TikTok and went in and listened and they were like, oh, wow, like you don't know what you don't know. And when you become aware of these things, you can start to understand that it doesn't necessarily matter like whether what you're doing is super extreme. It's the baby steps, and the baby steps and the consistency will get you to, that point of being able to, if you like, let's say you continue on this path for 5 years and you look back and you're like, cool, the this donation that I did in 2020 for $100 and now it's 2025 and I'm able to donate $10,000, and it's just that exponential growth that comes from, I think, first, like being aware of what you want and like knowing how to get it and how to get there, and then taking, steps to ensure that you'll get as close to that point as possible.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's important to kind of have, like, when you said earlier, like your one sentence that describes, what you want out of life. And one of the main points in there was financial freedom, right? And financial stability. And I think a lot of people would say like, that's selfish, but it's interesting that this came up because I had a call this morning with this group that I'm in. And one of the points made was, how many people can you help if you're poor?
Yeah.
Not many. How many people can you help if you have a significant amount of income? The range just expands. Like you can help, throw in X number of people, like you can help as many people as you want if you're able to sustain that financial stability.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I have a pretty interesting, not interesting, but I'd say that pretty different view on money. That I'd say that for me, money isn't the goal, but it's more of a tool. So it's a tool to provide for my family, for my current family, future family, whatever, and to provide for society as a whole. So I see it as more of a tool than the end all be all of my goal. Like sure, being a millionaire would be great, being a billionaire, whatever you want to say about that, but the goal isn't to exactly like money is not the end goal. That I want to be a billionaire, that's my end goal. I can die at peace after I'm a billionaire. Money is more of a tool to be used to have an impact for the people. So that's why I said in a way where I'm like, reduce as much human suffering as possible while maintaining financial stability for me and my loved ones. As you mentioned, if you're financially strained all the time, your mind is more towards how can I cover my expenses for this month than how can I serve the people around me. However, if that financial stability is there, your mindset automatically moves towards an abundance mindset, you could say, and automatically you're thinking of how can I help others around you. So that's just sort of the thing in the end. Like you got to be practical. You're living in a material world. You can't just say that I'm gonna go, meditate in the caves in the Himalayas. If you want to do that, that's up to you. Like I have no judgment at all. But in the end, you are living in this material world. You have to operate it as simple as that.
So I 100% agree, but I want to ask you about, you mentioned the Himalayas.
Yeah,
So you said that last time we spoke that you went on this trip,
yeah,
right? And like with your family, what you want to like give a little
sure.
context behind that and some detail?
Sure. So I went on like a 9 day trip with my family, and there were a couple of other family friends and all that. And I basically what I did was it's the first time in my life that I've ever done this, where I deleted all the social media from my phone. This was pretty interesting because never done this before. Like never gone on like a phone or social media cleanse, you could say. And for the first time in my life, I did it. Um, and the first couple of days were really really hard. First of all, because you're not in your normal environment that you're used to. Second of all, you know, you're like it's a very different experience. I don't even know how to describe it honestly, but the first couple of days were really really hard. It was pretty enticing to just sort of switch on, just like download even one app, and just check what's going on with the world. Your typical FOMO, you could say.
Mm.
But after a while, I don't know, it got quite easy. It got pretty easy over the days, and then by the eighth or ninth day, it didn't really feel like I was missing out on much. I'd say. Um, so yeah, it was pretty interesting. I don't know, and like the thing was that when we were in the Himalayas, we visited a couple of religious sites. So I identify as a Hindu, so we visited a couple of religious Hindu sites. We met some incredible people. The Himalayas is a beautiful place. Anyone that ever goes there, one of the most peaceful places in the world. Um, and you definitely do feel connected to nature as a whole. It's also a way to sort of explore my spirituality as a whole. Um, and not checking your phone helped out a lot with that as well, because your mind was focused on in the moment. But yeah, that was an incredible experience to say the least. And I've never gone on a social media cleanse after, but I'd say my relationship with social media has improved after. So
Mm.
now I use it as more as a vehicle, um, to connect with other people, with connect with other credible individuals like yourself, with my current friends, with family, with the business and all that. Social media is great. It's just that it's about your relationship with it. Like I
Mhm.
think Gary Vee says a pretty cool, like he says a pretty interesting thing about it. You don't have to agree with him or disagree with him, but he says one thing about it. He's like social media isn't exactly bad. It's just a relationship with it that's bad or good. So as long as you have a good relationship with it, you can be perfectly fine. Like again, in the end, you're in the material world. You're in this world. Like you can either run away from it and be like, "Hey, social media is bad for you," or use it to your advantage to have the impact that you want to have in the world. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, I agree. Gary Vee is a genius. um, I think it's it's similar with a lot of things. Like people that people that drink alcohol. Like for me, for example, like I know a ton of people that can go out and have a couple beers or like smoke a little bit of weed and like they're good. In moderation, and they use it as like an enjoyment, but it's not something that is on their mind 24/7. um Me, I can't do that. So I like, you got to have the self-awareness to know, like, you have to like meet yourself where you're at and be like, okay, can I handle this? Yes or no. If no, then stay away. But it's social media, they make it so that it's addictive, and it's interesting. I just watched, have you ever heard of the show Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just watched an episode yesterday about, you know, it was like somewhat centered around how addictive social media can be. And I've been, talking to some people and, um, kind of learning about how, like, how intense that feeling can be of like, you don't even realize you're doing it, but you're going to pull out your phone and check it every 15 minutes. Like, oh, did I get any, how many people like that picture? Or like, do I have any new messages, or am I what's going on? What am I, like the FOMO that you spoke on, and I've I've done like a social media cleanse or detox, like, and it wasn't even intentionally for social media. It was more so like I didn't want to talk to anybody, so I just turned my phone off for a couple days, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like teetering on like on the tightrope of like I do use it really well to like promote my content, promote my podcast and all that, but I also spend a significant amount of time just scrolling, you
Yeah.
know, and so I think, you know, I'm getting to the point where, you know, in the next couple days I'm just going to, you know, turn off all notifications and you know, go a day or two without checking it just to kind of like reset and put things back into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely agree with you. It's interesting. I don't know. Like I was so on the point of social media, TikTok. Like TikTok is addicting as hell, man. Like it is insane. Like that app is literally insane. Like if you don't like control it, like you could literally like I know 45-year-old, 50-year-old grown men that like they start TikTok and like they're on it for like 3 hours a day. Like 45-year-old men. Like I'm telling you, like this is one of the most addicting apps like possible. Like it's really fun. You get on and it's just a really good time. Use that to your advantage. So for example, like I see it in a way where I'm like, okay, how can I put out more content on what we're doing at Progressholic? So in that aspect, I'm trying my best to put out more content with that. So using TikTok's good parts, you know, which is to get your message out there, and trying to limit, you can say the bad parts. Like sure, at times an indulgence and you know scrolling for a couple of minutes, it's fine. But like when it gets like pretty, and I know a lot of friends, I know whether that's older or younger, that like um, it's just so addicting at times that without you knowing it, you spent like 2 hours just scrolling through, you know. So it's interesting. Like the newer apps are getting in more and more addicting. So it's harder for sure. But it's like if you always have the right relationship with it, and about the self awareness, as you mentioned, um, it, it's easier said than done, but it can lead to benefits instead of drawbacks.
Yeah, I actually have the app TikTok, and I haven't posted anything. I downloaded it because like my girlfriend started making TikToks, and so I was like, okay, like I'll just hop on and like, you know, go through and like and comment on the stuff that she posts, and then, you know, I find myself like I don't go on it for this reason, as you just said. Like I'll go on it and like there's times where like I'll be like just sitting and like scrolling, and I look up and it's been 45 minutes, and I'm like, am I? I'm just like watching like 15 to 60-second video clips just over and over and over, and it is a really cool tool where, you know, it's unlike the other platforms. You know, Facebook is like mainly centered around um, written word. I mean, there's obviously like pictures and videos, but it's more of like a blog format. And Instagram is all like you can't post anything if you don't post a picture, and there's not as much room to type. But you have the video aspect also, like Instagram TV. TikTok is like very minimal written word and all either pictures or videos, and it's a great platform for somebody who is comfortable speaking in front of the camera to get their message across.
Yeah.
And I've been considering like making one for the comeback journey, and I just like have been like, oh yeah, you know, I'll get to it eventually, you know, and not really putting any effort into it, but it's on my radar. Like I just don't want to fall into the trap, you know, of
Yeah.
being on it, like saying I'm gonna like go on there and like
Yeah.
produce rather than consume, and then I end up just consuming everything and not producing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, that was another concern that I had. So I started TikTok around April 28th, 29th. So like the end of April, basically. And so it's been around 15, about a half a month. And I post around 3 to 4 pieces of content a day, normally. And the first couple of ones were really hard because, I mean, like you got the phone out and you're putting the phone in front of you and you're talking like you're literally, it's only your face being shown and you're like talking. It can be kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. Um, but like, I mean, uh, you get the hang of it after a while. Like it actually becomes fun, like being in front of the camera. I'm not even gonna lie. And the best part about it is that literally, like for example, you and me talk about something, and I really, really resonate with something that you said. I could literally go on right now, make a 30-second video about it, be like, I spoke to Nick right now in the podcast episode. This is what I learned. Hope this helps out. You know, like it's super easy. Like so that's what Gary Vee speaks about. He's like, you can literally take this phone right now, and in like 20 like in literally in a minute, you can have a piece of content out there on like TikTok. You know, like it's beautiful that way. Like today, I was on a call with one of my mentors, and he mentioned this idea, and I really liked it. So what I did, after that, I just went on TikTok and I made a video about it. You know, and that's just that's just the way it is at this point. Another thing to sort of make sure that you're producing as well as consuming is what I did was I followed only people that are sort of within my niche, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of things happen from that. I get more ideas on like what to post, or like how to post my content. Second thing is I learn as well. So like while I'm scrolling through aimlessly, I'm learning as well while I'm scrolling through aimlessly, because it's more like on the mindset aspect and self growth, personal development, all that kind of stuff. So then that way, that kind of makes the platform actually help you learn and actually help you grow in a way. And the best part about TikTok is it's super small. Like I don't have to like read anything as such, or I don't have to like take, because like for me, at least for Instagram, it takes me like normally like 20 to 25 minutes to curate like one piece of content to make a graphics post. TikTok is just my face or just a couple of other things, and like I'm good to go.
Yeah. And I think it's another cool thing that Gary Vee says is, he's big on like, if you don't know what to post, document instead of create. And you can just like hop on and be like, hey guys, like something as simple as like going outside, be like, hey guys, it's a beautiful day. Like, hope everyone's doing well. And like, just something small and simple like that. But just as long as you keep with the consistency, that's where the momentum comes from.
Yeah.
And over time it will grow. You just have to be patient with it.
Yeah. And another interesting thing that he said was actually, I was just listening to one of his podcasts yesterday. He said that I enjoyed the process of developing my brand more than when my brand was already developed. So that's pretty interesting to think about it. Like this is where you should be actually enjoying when maybe your audience isn't as big. It's not the place that you want it to be. But if you're sort of in love with the process, I think that's something that we all struggle with, because especially in a North American outcome-based mindset where you are judged on your outcomes. At times what can happen is we think that the happiness lies at the end. Like when I've reached 10,000 followers or 20,000 podcast downloads, that's the happiness. That's where the happiness, like it's like a finish line that you pass the finish line and then all the happiness showers on you. Mm-hmm. But it's like something that he stresses a lot, where it's like the happiness is in that whole process. Actually, it doesn't feel like good to reach the outcome, So it's like that whole process of building. Like for example, for me, I don't get a lot of like likes on TikTok right now. Like I'm getting like 10 or 15 likes in a video or something. But it's like I really enjoy making them and just like sharing my story out there. So it's like, and for example, another thing with podcasting, sure, like I'm not hitting 100,000 downloads right now, for example, but when I'm in an interview with someone in a podcast episode, literally for me, time flies by like there's no like it flies by like crazy, because I'm passionate about it and I really love talking and connecting with someone else. So for example, like you and me have been in this call for an hour around. For me, it just like in my head, it's like I feel like it's been like 3 to 4 minutes, just because we're having a good time.
Yeah.
We're talking about life,
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. So if you genuinely like enjoy the process of like, developing yourself and developing your brand or whatever, like it makes like you realize that the happiness, like you already have the happiness, you don't have to go and search for it outside that finish line.
Right. Yeah. Like I think like we have all that we need already. Yeah. Like internally we have the keys to fulfillment. It's just sometimes they're buried and we have to, dig for them and brush them off and figure out where, like what lock the key fits into, but I had this idea for the longest time, like, as soon as I can make $100,000 a year, I'll be set. Like I could, that's good enough for me. And this was like last year around this time, like that was like my mentality. Like I'm working 2 full-time jobs, and I just need to make as much money as possible, and then I can do what I want to do, but I think like now, I'm also in a mentorship program, and something that I've been taught is that you have to behave and act in a way that, like, the person you see yourself as in 3 years or 5 years or whatever, like when you have the things that you want, you have to behave as that person now, and you have to embody that lifestyle. And in doing that, you become, that's like the internal fulfillment. Like, you don't have these things yet, and but you believe, you act as though you already have them, and you can, I think it, what's the word I'm looking for here, it it kind of like narrows your focus on what's important and like what you really need to be happy. And come to find out, like, yes, as you said, like, money is a tool, money is important to use in a way to like advance your position and the positions of other people that you choose to help, but it's not the end goal. Like, I don't really think that there is an end goal, generally speaking. I think, like, what, like, the only real end goal is death, and I don't know if that's like a goal, but that's the only like end point in our current reality. So our whole life is the process, and our whole life is the journey. And if we're not happy enjoying that, then like there's something wrong there.
You couldn't have said it in a more beautiful way, man. That was beautiful. Um, and sort of on that point, on the death point, actually, someone I was speaking to recently, and he's been sort of a mentor to me, and he was mentioning this to me. He was like, the only two things I can guarantee you in life is death and failure.
Mm.
And that sounds okay. Now that sounds really, really dark if you just think about it from a very surface level mindset. But if the only thing you can guarantee in life is death and failure, then you know you're going to die. You know you're going to fail. So then, what is going to stop you from going and, you know, achieving what you want to achieve within this lifetime, or going and doing what you want to do, for example? Because if you know you're going to, because I mean, we've all failed in some aspect or the other in our lives. We've all failed in some aspect, and we all know we're all going to die anyways. So then what that does is that sort of releases the pressure off you of like, what if this fails? Or what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Like, I don't know. I thought it was a very, like, at the starting, it looks like a dark thought. And for me as well, like when I first heard it, I was like, okay, calm down, calm down. And then after that, when I thought about it, I reflected on it a little more after a couple of minutes. I realized that's kind of a very liberating thought. If death and failure are the only givens in life, then like what's stopping me from starting Progressholic? Like, like just even like starting this. What's stopping me from reaching out to Nick and being like, hey, let's get on a call and see how we can help out each other?
Mm.
Worst come to worst, he says no and I fail. I'm gonna die anyways. Like it's just I know it's a really, like, I'll mention this again. I know it's a little dark, but if you take the time to reflect on it, which I have taken, like, took the 15 to 20 minutes to reflect on it, and I really thought about it, it made a lot more sense than just if like the first thing you hear is death and failure is like the only like the only thing that I can guarantee.
Mm.
So it's a pretty interesting thought.
Yeah, I think it's cool how you said that, like, once you can realize that, it takes the pressure off, because then, you're not, like, I don't know, for the majority of my life, and even still now, somewhat, like, I still struggle with like the fear of failure. Like, what if I do this wrong, or what if it doesn't work out, or whatever it may be. But I think if you can learn to be comfortable with the unknown, and like not knowing exactly how a situation is going to turn out, like, obviously, like, don't place yourself in a situation that's going to present like immediate danger to your life, but like with starting a podcast, like, what if it flops? What if nothing happens? What if nobody listens? Cool, man, try something else. Like, you don't, I think I think this is kind of like segueing off a little bit, but I think there's all this pressure of like, what is my life's purpose? Like, I don't know what it is. Well, I don't think it's necessarily realistic to believe that our life's purpose or the I guess like the vehicle that we choose to use to fulfill our life's purpose. Like, I don't think it's realistic to think that that's never going to change. Like you could want like right now, like I really love doing the podcast, and I think it's a great hobby slash business slash way to impact people. But maybe down the line I find something else that resonates with me more, and that's cool because I really enjoyed the podcast while I was doing it. And if at some point it doesn't do that for me anymore and I find something else, that's totally fine. It doesn't, like, we don't need to be glued to this, like, I have to have one purpose in life and that's the only purpose I'm ever going to have and it's never going to change. Like, we grow, we evolve, we learn, and we change as people. And as we do that, our interests change, our values may change, our beliefs may change. And I think it's important to like be open to that. Otherwise, like you said earlier, like you build a box for yourself and then you're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, beautifully said. I mean, you really have no idea. I never thought in a million years that I would be, staying in an apartment alone for like a month and a half, cooped up in his apartment, like not being able to leave. I never thought a global pandemic would ever happen where the whole world would literally stop. We never thought like any of this. So it's like, whatever happens, it happens. You just grow, you learn from it. And maybe today, we're on this podcast, we're really enjoying it. Tomorrow you realize I want to drop the podcast. My passion is starting a blog. Like I just want to write, I want to write a book. I want to do something else. So it's completely fine. I think at times, and I'm very guilty of this. That's why I'm mentioning this, is being harsh on yourself. And that's something that I've had to like sometimes let go, is sort of being harsh on myself. Now, thank the Nick that you were 10 weeks from now. 10 weeks from now, thank the Nick that you will be 10 weeks in the future, and thank the Nick that you are right now. It's perfect the way it is. You're growing in your journey, and like you'll reach where you need to reach. Simple as that.
I agree, man. That's beautifully said, as you put. All right, man. I think that's a perfect time to wrap it up with those closing thoughts right there.
Awesome.
This was a lot of fun. I had a feeling that it was going to be a lot of fun, and like it exceeded my expectations. So I'm really glad the way that this turned out and that we were able to do this.
Definitely, man. I'm just happy to meet incredible individuals like yourself, man. And I mean, just good conversations like these make your day. So I mean, that's the main thing, So thanks a lot for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right, my friends. Until next time, signing out.